Hey, how you doing? Welcome to part 98. 98, good God, that's a big number, of Mark talking about his stuff. I'm trying to talk about various different bands and my experiences and going to see those bands, as opposed to just talking constantly about one thing all the time. There are, of course, YouTube channels that are dedicated to specific bands. This is not one of them. I like all the colours of the rainbow. Today I'm going to be talking about New Order solo projects between 1998 and the year 2000, and New Order activity in that period, which covers all of these CDs here, none of which were released on vinyl, as well as a handful of the comeback live appearances by New Order and some books. We of course have got the three books that have been written by the three members of the band, Peter Hook, Bernard Sumner, Stephen Morris here. There's also the Johnny Marr autobiography, Set the Boy Free, as Johnny was in a band with Bernard, but instead I think I'm just going to talk chronologically through. So the last time that we spoke about this band, New Order, it was 30th of August 1998 in the timeline. The band had just played two shows, one here at the Manchester Apollo on the 16th of July 1998, in my top 3 or 4 shows of all time, that one, and then followed it up 6 weeks later with a second show at the Reading Festival, supporting Garbage. Shirley Manson, I think it was her birthday. She was incredibly drunk, so New Order were much better. And as I said at the time, even though Garbage played last, New Order headlined. Kind of like the many epilogues that we've got at the end of Lord of the Rings. As far as I was concerned, that day, New Order were the climax of the day. At the same time, the three constituent bands that were offshoots of New Order, that is Electronic with Johnny Marr and Bernard Sumner, Monaco with Peter Hook and David Potts, and the other two with Stephen and Gillian, were plying their solo trades. And as I've said before, it's kind of difficult to be a fan of New Order at this point. It wasn't really clear exactly what New Order were or where they fitted into the world of music. You know, they'd done next to nothing for a decade since the end of the Technique tour in 1989. They played, I think, 13, 14 maybe live shows in 1993, one studio album, and fizzled out in front of people's eyes and ears. So we're going to pick this up September 1998. My life has changed a lot between the first time I heard of New Order and September 1998. So one relationship I was in had just come to an end, probably a week before the New Order show at Reading, when we were on holiday, and I met somebody else, and another relationship started probably a month or so after, and I thought everything was, I thought the future was so bright I had to wear shades. But things didn't quite go to plan there, which the next time I talk about Pet Shop Boys is probably going to become more obvious. And New Order were, as far as anyone else was concerned, still going on as a band. They played these 2 shows. They announced 2 extra shows, one at the Manchester Evening News Arena on the 29th of December 1998, and one at London's Alexandra Palace on the 31st of December. All-nighter shows with Underworld supporting or playing after them, Chemical Brothers DJing the London show. I was on it like a bonnet. I had to go to those shows. I had to be there. And the Manchester show was, by all accounts, awful. It didn't sell particularly well. The weather was terrible. The sound mix was dreadful. They probably sold maybe 7,000 tickets in a 12,000 ticket baseball, sports ball arena. And I think part of that was it was like a crap Tuesday in December. The second one was it was raining, the weather was awful, and I think maybe a lot of people I'd got seeing New Order out of their system in the summer, and then seeing them again in the December. I think maybe some people felt, nah, I don't really need to do that. Whereas London, the Alexandra Palace show, absolutely fantastic. One of my favourite shows of all time, because that night was just incredible, really. You know, Alexandra Palace is this beautiful Victorian 1860s or so, I think, kind of huge conference centre. It burnt down in I think about 1980. It was rebuilt again in the late 80s, and it's just this incredible building, an architectural wonder. Sadly, terrible place to see bands unless you're right down the front. The sound is absolutely pig awful. It's not designed for sound at all. It does have a beautiful organ, which is at the back of the stage, which you generally don't get a chance to see if you go and see a band there. But aside from that, the main hall, which New Order and Underworld played in, the sound is terrible. I've seen both New Order and Underworld there, both on that show and separate headline shows, and the sound is terrible. And the Chemical Brothers, by the way, played a DJ set in the room that was just over from there as well. So you can imagine I was very young. I was 25, I think, and seeing, you know, Underworld, New Order, Chemical Brothers doing an all-nighter London New Year's Eve. I've got to admit, I had a drink, I had a great time, I danced a lot. The Underworld show, which was broadcast on the radio, is still one of my favourite live shows of all time to go back and listen to. And sometimes, like I did with the Reading Festival show, which is on the DVD, I kind of go, I can't believe I was there. You know, it seems so long ago. It seems like it was about 3 years ago and 30,000 years ago at the same time. The memories are getting a little bit hazy around that, but I remember where I was. I remember the feeling of it, which was euphoric. Now, as I've said before, here's the bootleg tape of the Apollo show. I've got a bootleg CD over there somewhere as well. The band also recorded a Peel session on the 30th of December 1998. And they went into the studio and they recorded 5 songs for John Peel. It was the last Peel session that they did during his lifespan. These were released in 2004 on this CD here, New Order in Session, which contains 10 tracks in total. 5 recorded for John Peel in 1998 and 4 recorded for, I think, Mark Goodyear in 2001, plus an extra track. And this has fantastic, definitive studio recordings from New Order in 1998. So it's got Peel session versions of True Faith, Isolation, Touched by the Hand of God, Atmosphere and Paradise on it. And they are fabulous studio recordings. If you haven't heard them, please track them down and listen to them. It's almost like you're missing a New Order EP from 1998 because it's got 5 songs in it, and they're playing the new Perfecto version of True Faith on this, as well as the rearranged version of Touched by the Hand of God and Isolation. Absolutely great EP. And the version of True Faith that's on this, by the way, if I ever need to check my stereo system, find out what the reproduction is like on a new MP3 player or a new CD player or anything like that, I put True Faith on because it's got the best dynamic range for me. I know the track so well that I can tell whether it's a good set of speakers or not. They also, by the way, New Order recorded a version of Temptation in the studio in 1998 for, I think, the Manchester International Sports something or other. I was trying to find out why. It doesn't say on here, but they did I think it was the Manchester International Commonwealth Games in September 1998. They appeared on television and they performed Temptation live as part of the opening ceremony. They re-recorded Temptation in 1998. You can find it on the 5th CD of a box set called Retro, which was released in 2004. After fans on the ceremony mailing list said, this is an appalling track list and we aren't going to buy it, the band hastily put together an extra CD of rarities and unreleased material and rare bits and bobs, which made it onto this CD, which was only available from HMV in the first production run of 3,000. But if you can find it, great. If you can't, the version of Temptation 98 is on YouTube. Everything's on YouTube, including all of my videos. And that brought 1998 to a close. It brought New Order's brief period of refreshed activity to a close. 1999, moving into a new year, and we saw 2 albums coming out quite quickly. So the first one, which came out, which I think was in March, was the 3rd album by Electronic, and it is called Twisted Tenderness. Here is a promotional CD that was released before it came out. The guy on the cover, by the way, is a Russian politician and Lothario called Rasputin, Rasputin, Russia's greatest love machine. And the album Twisted Tenderness was not released on vinyl, by the way, so it's the only album of new studio material from Bernard Sumner that has not been released on vinyl in its original incarnation, by the way. There was lots and lots of promo versions of this that came out, lots of various variations. The first single from the album was called Vivid. Here's a 12-inch single of Vivid. And Vivid is, I think, creatively, sonically, it sounded a lot more like a conventional rock band playing guitars, as opposed to the kind of sound that you had from the first Electronic album and the second one. It was a lot less electronic, a lot more rock. It's my least favourite of the Electronic albums, and in fact I think it's probably my least favourite of the albums that Bernard has played on during the course of his career, because it sounded, to be honest, quite ordinary, quite normal, not uninspired. It's got some great songs on it, but it's just not as good as I would expect the other ones to be. Now, there was a promotional release of Twisted Tenderness. Here's a 4-track EP. This contains a different mix of the track Make It Happen. Make It Happen on the album, and here's my copy of the album. I've changed the sleeve around so that it's got a slightly different cover. The album has a different mix of Make It Happen onto the promo CD. The promo CD has Ice-T sampled from something, saying this is not a pop album, which they couldn't get the rights for on the final version of the album. The album version just has Ice-T just going, this is, and then there's some scratching. So it's not someone telling you that this is not a pop album. This is a definitive mix of Make It Happen that's on there. And so the first single was Vivid, and Vivid had an interesting release strategy. It's probably the best way to describe it. There were 2 CD singles here, and the CD singles, there's really strange little CDs called a Minimax CD, which is a 5-inch CD, but 3 inches of silver playing space with 2 inches of kind of transparent plastic on there. Really strange. The only CDs I've got that are like this actually are the Electronic ones. And Vivid's an okay track. It's not great. The CD is backed with Radiation, which is an instrumental, which is 7.5 minutes of banging guitars and synthesizers, and a remix of the track called Prodigal Son by Inch. It's not very good. And there's a second CD, because everything was part 2 of a 2 CD pack, again in a Minimax sleeve here for Vivid, and it's got I think the radio edit of Vivid on there, and it's got a remix of a track called Haze, and it's got a Harv is a Star in Your Own Mind remix of Prodigal Son. Again, not a great track at all. So they really wanted to get Prodigal Son as see if they could turn it into a hit. It didn't quite work. On the 12-inch, meanwhile, and this is the only commercially released vinyl from that Twisted Tenderness period. We have a 2 Lone Swordsman mix and the Harvey's Star in Your Own Mind remix of Prodigal Son. Now, there's also, they went a little bit crazy on promotional stuff around about the release of the album, but I need to talk about the album, because in my mind, the Twisted Tenderness album is not very good. It's an ordinary album. It's the most conventional, straightforward rock album that there is. Now, the track listing is pretty interesting. It's got Make It Happen on there, which is a lovely track, great track. It's got Haze, which is pretty good, Vivid, which is okay. It's got Breakdown. It's got a cover of, I think, a song called Can't Find My Way Home, which I think is by Cream or Blind Faith or someone like that. I've never heard the original, and I never will. And I don't really see the point of putting cover versions on an Electronic album. And it's got the title track for Twisted Tenderness. The title track of Twisted Tenderness is the closest thing to a classic Electronic song with lots and lots of synths on there that you might expect. I'm not saying it's great, because it isn't, but it's the closest thing to the sound of the 1991 album. Then there's Like No Other, which I think was a single, actually. No, it wasn't. It was mooted as a single. Late at Night, which was a single in Germany. Prodigal Son, which is okay. When She's Gone, which is okay. And a song called Flicker. If you're thinking, oh, I haven't heard this and I'd like to hear something new, then by all means buy it. But don't buy it and be amazed, because it's not an amazing record. Not even with the original mix on there. And there was a promotional clear vinyl 10-inch that was released of Make It Happen. Here it is. Now you will see on here some text, which comes from the fact that I've also got the promo sheet here, which for some reason has been inside here for so long that some of the text has transferred over onto the record itself, which I'm really surprised about, actually. But here's a clear vinyl 10-inch of this is Make It Happen, which has the original mix on of Make It Happen, and a Darren Price remix of Make It Happen. So again, the only time you can get Make It Happen on vinyl is on this clear vinyl 10-inch, backed with a Kevin Fisher remix of Prodigal Son. They really wanted Prodigal Son to be a hit, and it just wasn't going to happen, no matter how much they remixed it. But I've not got any other 10-inches quite like this, which is a clear vinyl 10-inch in a plastic sleeve with, you know, the writing on it. And this kind of writing, I think, would have been very useful for the Suede New Morning album, because I think that's something they were thinking about at the time when they were putting that together. There's also a second promotional 10-inch that was released around about the same time. Here it is. This is the remixes of Prodigal Son, with Harvey's Greatly Deluded mix, Harvey's A Star in Your Own Mind mix, and an Inch remix, which is called Touched by the Hand of Inch, and a remix by Two Lone Swordsmen. And again, this one doesn't come with a promo sleeve, so you can see what the 10-inch actually is meant to look like here. Clear vinyl 10-inch in a plastic sleeve. It exudes money and cost. This clearly wasn't cheap to make, and I don't quite know why, but they did it, and I'm not complaining. I bought it and I'm happy about it. That after all that remixing, the second single from the album, by the way, which was released, was Late at Night. And Late at Night here was released in a number of formats. The first one, which again isn't an officially released version, is the promotional CD of Late at Night, again using the Minimax format here inside a mini version of the 10-inch sleeve. But there's, in terms of a commercial release, there were 2 CD singles of Late at Night. This one here, again, taking the Minimax version and having a little card insert that you could take out inside a die-cut sleeve if you really wanted to do that, and the Minimax CD here. There was also a second CD single of it, which is here. No, that's upside down. That's the right way up. This has a track called Warning Sign on it, and the Darren Price remix of Make It Happen. This has King for a Day and the Kevin Fisher remix of Prodigal Son, which is retitled Come Down Now on here. Now, these were only officially released in the UK for pre-orders, so if you ordered it off Amazon or HMV or somewhere, they would send it to you in the post. No copies of these ever hit the shelves in the UK, and I think it was released in Germany, and it hit the shelves in Germany, and but nowhere else was this released. So pretty hard to get, and there is no super deluxe expanded version of Twisted Tenderness apart from a download which has been officially released. There is, however, a expanded 2 CD version of the electronic debut album, which does have a number of tracks from the Twisted Tenderness period on it which aren't available anywhere else. So this has an alternate version of Twisted Tenderness, and it has an instrumental of Twisted Tenderness on it as well. So if you want to get all the tracks from the era, you have to get the 2013 2 CD version of Electronic as well. Hey, I'm not responsible for that discography. I think the electronic discography has been poorly served, and I wish that the album Twisted Tenderness was released on vinyl with those extra tracks as a double LP. I'm sure they would sell copies, but they'd much rather press yet another coloured vinyl variant of a Suede album for you instead. At the same time, another version of the band, another one of the solo projects, was working on their album and had just completed recording it. So this was the second album and the final to date album by the other two, which is called Superhighways, and this is a lost classic of the era, by the way. The first release from this period was a promotional CD called Superhighways, a single one track 5-inch CD here, and also a CD single which was here, called Superhighways, which is backed with a remix of Superhighways by Andy Votel, and a remix of a track called You Can Fly, which is, again, I think it's the Kevin Fisher Mile High Club mix. Now, by the way, this is a fantastic song. It was never released as a single. They got as far as pressing up, a few hundred CD singles and a promo CD. The track never took off. It never got traction, so it was never released commercially. And some copies found their way out into collectors' circles. Yes, I'm guilty. I'm one of those. The first single that came out from the album is instead You Can Fly, which is here. And You Can Fly has a vocal by Melanie Williams, who also sang, I think, on a track by Sub Sub called Ain't No Love, Ain't No Use. And it's also got a remix, a Quake vocal, and a remix of a track called Wojtek on there. Both these songs are really good, solid, straightforward pop songs. But as I've said before, it was very, very difficult if you were in the other two or New Order to work out where you fitted in the world, really. It wasn't clear at all. Were people interested? Were people going to buy it? New Order have done nothing for a while. Is anyone going to care? This is the promo double 12-inch of You Can Fly, which is backed with, I think, a club mix, a dub mix, and again, a Quake vocal and a Quake dub version on a double 12-inch. Nobody was interested in buying this stuff apart from me. It's probably quite rare now, but no one was interested at the time. New Order were that band what was from the 80s, and who would be interested in their solo material? I got the feeling again that London Records and EMI Records and were not that supportive, actually. We're just like, we've got this band, what are we going to do with them? We want New Order stuff. We don't want solo New Order stuff. We want the actual New Order stuff if we can possibly get it. But the second other two album came out about March. It's called Superhighways. I've changed the cover around again because I prefer that picture to the one that is actually the cover of Superhighways. And the cover of Superhighways is this, which is Peter Saville's computer graphic CGI representation of a virus. But also it looks like a series of party crackers, whereas I prefer this image here, so I've chosen to move my CD around. I love the Superhighway album. I think this is a really strong, solid, good bit of female-fronted electro-pop, and it's really unfairly sunk without trace, I think is probably is the most honest thing to say about this album. Do give the other two's Superhighways album a listen, give it a peek, and decide whether you like it or not on your own merit. I think this is a really, really strong record. Superhighways is a great track on there. The River is a great one. Hello, by the way, which I opened my playlist of the album with Hello. It's just great songs, and I just love them. I think they're brilliant, and you can really hear the New Order in that. So you can hear the sleek, refined, elegant keyboard lines and the unfussy drum parts in those songs, and they're just really, really good, and I wish more people knew them. So Peter Hook, of course, was also recording. He was playing live with Monaco, and Monaco released a second album. This one is called Monaco. It's not a great cover, so again, I've changed the CD booklet around. This is a promotional CD, and it was released on the 21st of August 2000. And this was the follow-up to Music for Pleasure, and I think Music for Pleasure sold 500,000 copies, which is pretty damn impressive. And yet, for some reason, Monaco found themselves dropped by their label, even though they got a 4-album advance from the label and had sold 500,000 copies. And then we're in the position of having to kind of like find a new label for the second Monaco album. And Hooky and Potsy had an argument, and they decided to see through the album and the period of touring that surrounded that, but then not work together again, which they didn't do for about 15 years after the Monaco album. The second Monaco album is just called Monaco, and it is unfairly, I think, it's fallen off the face of the earth. Now, I saw Monaco in 1998 play Stokes the Stage, and also I saw them play the Reading Festival in 1998. So I've seen a couple of songs from this played live. Kashmir is one of them, A Life Apart is one of the other songs, and when I saw them in Stoke, I think they played a third of the new songs. I can't remember the name of it, might have been It's a Boy. But you know, it's a good album. The thing is, nobody knows that the second Monaco album exists, because when the second album came out, the label Papillon, or however that's pronounced, pretty much ceased to exist about 3 weeks later, and the band split up. So they had no label, no support, no promo, nothing. And you know, the record sold pretty much every copy of it that it was going to sell in the first 3 weeks, and then it disappeared. It wasn't helped by the fact that the first single, which is I've Got a Feeling here, off the album, this will sound familiar to you, gang, wasn't actually released. So again, they pressed up some copies for a commercial CD single release. The video was made, the video didn't get any airplay. They decided, rather than actually put the CD out, the CD single, they just kind of quietly released it later on and didn't actually put it out for sale. So I had to order my copy of this from a retailer in Germany in the year 2000 that had some stock. This is backed with 2 extra tracks. One's Heaven 7 and the other one is called Barfly. They're good songs. I think they might have played Barfly live actually at Stoke when I saw them. But you know, those 2 songs haven't been reissued. They've not been commercially available for a long time. And by the way, neither the Monaco album nor Twisted Tenderness nor Superhighways have ever had a vinyl release. I've never seen a vinyl. I've never even heard of a vinyl copy of this. So it was a really difficult time to be a New Order fan. Not that that stopped the label, because the label decided they were going to also put out a promo 12-inch of a potential second single called Seesaw, and this is a promo 12-inch, double 12-inch of 4 remixes of Seesaw that haven't been commercially released, and these are the Lab Rats vocal, the Solaris Club mix, the Lab Rats dub and the Solaris dub, and I have no memory of whether these remixes are any good or not. And as you can see, this copy's been out in the sun, but as you can also tell, I'm probably never going to see another copy of this ever in the rest of my life, and I made the decision that it was important to buy it at the time that I saw it. So this is the second Monaco single off the Monaco album. Again, wasn't released commercially in any form. So if anyone said, well, the band don't sell records, well, the answer is you don't put any records on for sale. There's also a one-sided promo of, again, the Lab Rats Let Loose on the Seesaw remix of Seesaw. This one's rare as rocking horse shit to find, although not that many people are interested in getting it. It's an unreleased mix of Seesaw, again by the Lab Rats, whoever they are, on a one-sided promo 12-inch, and it's hard to get, but then not that many people are interested in it. But you could pick up copies really, really cheap about 20 years ago. And it's crazy to think that this is one of the more recent kind of periods of musical history which I've been talking about, and it's still 21 years ago. There have been a number of other releases in the meantime, so that brings the most recent solo albums by the other 2, who haven't released anything else since. Electronic haven't released anything else since. Monaco haven't released anything else since. There is still a couple of extra solo releases to talk about, and what that reminds me is I've forgotten to pick out a couple of extra releases. I might have mentioned these previously. In 2003, Peter Hook went back and revisited the Revenge album, One True Passion, and he released an expanded double CD version of it with alternate mixes, new songs that the band had recorded but never released. rare edits, versions, and so on and so forth, as well as a 1991 live album called No Pain No Gain, half of which was recorded at Manchester's Heaton Park in 1991, and the other half was recorded at a show, I think, in Tokyo or Kawasaki Club Sitter on the 31st of January 1991. These are available direct from LTM Records in somewhere in Britain. They're not very common, so you have to order them directly, and sometimes they're out of stock. LTM Records also took up the good mantle of reissuing expanded and remastered versions of the other two albums, which happened in, I think, 2010. So whilst Stephen was playing drums in a band called Bad Lieutenant with Bernard, Phil and Tom Chapman and Jake Evans, the other two also released these two CDs, which were expanded versions of their original albums. The Other Two Are New, features the original cover, which they'd originally planned in 1991. It had some alternate mixes on of, Let's Think, The Greatest Thing, and it had some remixes of Tasty Fish, Selfish, and Moving On from the various singles which came out at the time. They also did an expanded version of the Superhighways album, which featured remixes by Andy Votel of Superhighways from the cancelled CD single, the Kevin Fisher mix of You Can Fly, and the last one was the K-Class remix of the Tasty Fish, which came out in 1995. Innocence is not on this CD, by the way. No, not Innocence, Satisfied. Because I don't think Gillian likes it, actually. If you bought it direct from LTM, you had the opportunity to get a handmade, hand-burnt CDR in a card package, which came with some extra tracks on. These extra tracks are Auto Sound, a remix of Moving On, Sawdust, and mixes of You Can Fly, Innocence and Selfish. Again, Satisfied isn't on there. And if you look on the other two's SoundCloud page, you will also find a number of previously unavailable tracks, early mixes of stuff off the Superhighways album. Yes, their discography is a little complicated, but hopefully this will make it a little bit clearer to walk a path through all of that. The electronic albums have not been reissued in expanded, remastered forms apart from as downloads. If you want to get the electronic body of work, you have to buy the 3 studio albums, preferably get the original editions that came out at the time of release, and then get the 2 CD version of the electronic debut to get those extra tracks on there. The last thing that you do need, by the way, is 2006's Electronics Get the Message Best Of CD, which comes with a DVD, and the DVD has 7 promo videos on there. The CD has all of the singles, some album tracks. They're broadly delivered in a non-chronological order, by the way. There's also a couple of B-sides which are on here, but there's nothing that's really kind of like compelling. I mean, effectively, it feels like somebody at EMI Records sat down in late 2006 and went, new order of touring, and Electronic haven't fulfilled or paid out, recouped their advance. We're going to put out a best of. It doesn't matter what order the songs are in. It doesn't matter that we've got any remixes, rarities, oddities, B-sides on there or anything. Fuck it, just put some album tracks on and some of the singles and put a DVD on of the promos, and then that should do the trick. And it's just poor and sloppy, and it just indicates that there's not that much care or attention has been paid in putting together this package. It's not a compelling package at all. The track listing is sloppy. It really misses out, some really essential and good B-sides. So, for example, whilst Imitation of Life is on there, I feel alright, All That I Need, A New Religion, what's it called? Second to None is not on here. The B-sides off the Twisted Tenderness album aren't on here either. So, for example, Radiation, King for a Day, Warning Sign. There's nothing on here that is compelling. If you've got the other 3 albums, you don't need this. But you know, if you're the kind of person who, like me, is going to buy absolutely everything, that's what you need to get. And that brings us to a close, I think, of where we are. So, in the chronology of New Order's existence, that closes off the second period of solo releases from 1998 to the year 2000. We've got the albums Twisted Tenderness by Electronic, Superhighways by the other two, Monaco by Monaco, and we've got then almost all of those. You know, the other two albums are available in remastered, expanded forms, as are the Revenge albums. The Monaco ones, you have to track down the originals, I'm afraid. Don't try and get the vinyl because in most instances it doesn't exist. In the case of the Monaco and the second electronic album, they're staggeringly expensive, and the record companies don't seem to be interested in taking anybody's money from them about that. Where this then puts us is that kind of, it feels a little bit like New Order solo projects have been, to all intents and purposes, exhausted themselves. The band don't quite know, either collectively or individually, what they're going to do next, if the solo careers are viable, even. And I think somewhat one of the problems is, as with every band, is once you've been going 20, 25 years, you know, there is a crisis of confidence. The initial first flush of success often has to settle down and perpetuate itself into something more permanent, and sometimes that just doesn't happen. And so what we've got here is almost a point of crisis for the band. Monaco are over, Electronic are over. Obviously, Steve and Gillian have been together since the 80s, so they're not going to split up, but the other two haven't released any more records. And it's kind of like the question is, well, creatively, who are we? What do we do? And I mean, this is something which Stephen Morris turns upon in his book. He's kind of quite clear around it. You know, he was almost like an old man, kind of like not quite sure exactly what he was doing. And talking about it here, and he says, you know, by most people's standards, I was still young, but the idea of still being a drug addict fall at 40 seemed ridiculous. And, you know, talking about that, he kind of is quite clear around, you know, that, well, I didn't quite know what to do. I didn't quite know who to be. I didn't know what the band should be, or whether I should be in a band, or what we should be doing, or anything. And you know, he says, towards the end of the 1990s, I found myself feeling a bit adrift, that I had no idea of where music was going, and even less idea of what I was supposed to be doing in it. There were things I thought I could be doing, but younger, smarter folk always seemed to get there first. I'd been listening to Square Pusher, Photech, Ed Rush, and Groove Rider. Great, interesting music, but it was hard to get a fix on what was behind it. They certainly weren't bands. Anyone with a computer in their bedroom could knock up an incredibly sophisticated track, and as that had been my area of speciality, I began to feel I was being programmed out of a job. Maybe a little bit of an old gooseberry. Maybe I should leave it to the young folks. And it also kind of tied in with the death of Rob Gretton, the band's manager, who died on the 15th of May 1999, a staggering 22 years ago today. And I think perhaps that was where things had started to change. You know, when a band starts, it carries itself forward with momentum, and it perpetuates itself. For a good, successful band, there's probably 20 years there. But as the band's fan base changes, it grows older. People's lives change, and the band becomes just another band. They're no longer the hip new thing, or they're not exciting or fresh. You know, and as the band's fan base turns into things like mortgages and golf and pension plans and stuff like that, it becomes really, really difficult if you're a band to work out, well, who am I? What am I? Where do I go? You know, and beyond the immediate concerns of, well, you have to get up in the morning, you have to have breakfast, you have to do your job, whatever your job is. You know, a lot of people, I think, when they get to the same age that the band were at this, you know, 40, 45 or so, you know, you can't come to questions, well, about, well, who am I? What am I? Where am I? Why am I? What am I going to do? Who can I be now? And what became quite clear is that the band's solo projects just weren't going to be able to support them financially. as well. So I think the decision was made after the initial kind of trial reunion in 1998 with those 4 shows, which were incredible shows. The decision was, we better do some more New Order songs. And I mean, obviously there's a question around, well, once you've been in a band for 20 years, what do you sound like? How do you try to sound fresh? Someone asked Brian Ferry, who I don't like, why haven't you written any new songs? And he was like, well, there's only so many songs about swimming pools and girls that I can write. And then the question is, well, what do you do? Especially if you're one of those bands that was regarded as the sound of the future, especially bands like Kraftwerk. What do you do once the future's become now? You're not predicting the future anymore. You are in the future. The future has become the present. And there is, of course, nowhere else that you can be. So I'm going to wrap up here, I think. Thank you for listening to me witter on about New Order solo projects in the late 90s for 40 minutes. Hopefully that's been of some use to you. If you like New Order, I would recommend, yes, track down and listen to the electronic albums, the Monaco albums, the electronic albums, because there aren't going to be making that many more new studio albums in future. And if you think, God, I'd really like to hear a song that sounds like New Order, why not just go straight to the source and go straight to the component parts and ingredients of that? The other 2 album is really good. The Monaco album is really good. The electronic album is quite good. There's lots of gold to be found in them Thar Hills, and I would recommend you give them a listen. Luckily, they're all free on YouTube, so you don't even have to pay to listen to them. They're also on Spotify with their royalty rate of something like 1/1,000,000th of a penny per stream. So get listening, find new music, have a lovely time in the meantime. As per usual, don't be a dick in the comments. I have mentioned that before. And look after yourselves and each other. The next one is going to be episode 99. God knows what that's going to be about. Maybe Prince's 1999. Who knows? Probably, almost definitely not 99 Red Balloons, by the way. And in the meantime, stay beautiful. And I will see you all again soon. Thank you. Bye.